Hey guys, the Joker trailer just hit, all right? And I'll tell you, it looks incredibly good. It looks really, really good. You know, I don't get hyped for movies. I don't get hyped for movies very much. And honestly, I'm pretty interested in what the movie's gonna be. It's dark, it's gritty. The trailer was great. You know, cinematography is gorgeous. But here's the thing, it's not canon. It's not connected to any of the other movies. It's not connected to the Justice League or Wonder Woman or Aquaman or Shazam. It's not connected. But is that necessarily a bad thing? That's what I want to talk to you today about. I want to talk to you whether or not it's even a bad idea to have non-canonical and non-connected DC movies. All right, so there's a few reasons why I think that a non-canonical and non-connected movie would work well for DC. So number one that I want to talk about is Marvel versus DC as a whole. Basically, reaction versus leadership. Now, Marvel does a lot of great things amazingly well. They are able to connect their stories very cohesively, and they have these natural characters that you care about. They have movies that appeal to not just one demographic, but kids, teenagers, young adults, older folks. They do it well, and they make movies that are inspiring. They make movies that are hilarious and funny. They make movies that are just complete action, you know? And here's the thing, DC fails miserably at this, okay? So everything after the Christopher Nolan era, which is Man of Steel and after, they don't do very well. And it's very convoluted. The plots, they don't work well. The tone of the characters in each movie, they're not consistent. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And at the end of the day, there's no competition between trying to compete with Marvel at this point, because Marvel has led the way for that type of storytelling. DC instead should try and switch gears and find a new way to lead the charge, as opposed to react to what Marvel has done for 10 years. They failed miserably in the last 5 years. They should try a different approach to making their movies, which is why I think doing movies in a non-canonical or an unconnected way would be beneficial to them being successful at the box office and for characters onward. So number two, DC can set the example for making movies that are unconnected and non-canonical. Now that sounds like an old idea, and it is an old idea because they've done it successfully for years. I mean, Superman had 5 movies. The original Superman movie had 5 movies. There was the 90s Batman movie where they had 4 of them. And there was the Nolan trilogy where they had 3 of them. And Warner Brothers obviously has Harry Potter with 8 movies and another franchise coming on the way, which is shaping up to be pretty successful. People go to these movies, they like them. So what is the point of making movies that are connected if DC and Warner Brothers, if they've already done it so well in the past? They have a history of being successful at this. I really think that DC and Warner Brothers are spreading themselves way too thin in order to do this in a short amount of time. They're spending too many man hours, they're spending too much money, they're putting in too many resources into a formula that doesn't work for their studio. And what's happening is that they're putting their money into one stake for a multi-character franchise to be successful. We've all seen what happened since 2013. So there are a few things that have happened since the Snyder era has kind of officially ended or transitioned. Justice League was obviously a very awkward movie. I personally thought it was an okay movie, it was a good movie, it could have been much better, but it was an in-transition movie. Aquaman follows suit. I personally think that movie is terrible, it's awful, it's super CGI. The only thing I like about that movie was that Mera and Aquaman went on an adventure that was kind of like Indiana Jones. Now, the first movie on the list to really kind of transition out of this and set itself apart from the Snyder era movies is Shazam. Shazam feels very natural. It feels like it was never part of the Snyder era. And because of that, I'm actually very excited to see that movie. Much more excited actually to see that than Endgame, just because it's kind of like the underdog. Root for the underdog. Go Auburn! Now the Joker has the opportunity to really succeed at this and set the precedent for what's going to happen in the future. It's completely different from Shazam. They look like they're completely unconnected, but because of it, it sets itself, it basically lets the filmmakers do what they want to do with the story and not worry about the toys that are going to come out for the next movies or have to worry about the kids. It's really just worrying about telling a good story. And at the core of it, that's what movies are. They're meant to tell good stories. And number 3 is that in the comic book world, unconnected stories and non-canonical stories work extremely well. I mean, my favorite comic books from both Marvel and DC, they're not even canon. I mean, they are to an extent, but they're not connected at least. I'm talking about like Superman Red Sun. I'm talking about All-Star Superman, Dark Knight Returns. I'm talking about, what else? There's a Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle's fantastic. Watchmen. Those are all completed series, completed stories in one volume that are meant to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay? And honestly, like, if there's no end really for any of the Marvel movies, it can just keep going and going and going as long as it makes money in the box office. But if it doesn't matter if it's a connected movie or a canonical movie, it can still bring money into the box office. It can just tell a really amazingly good story with intent in mind. And that is why I think that DC can lead the charge to make movies in their own style, their own way of storytelling, by making the non-canonical, unconnected movie a standard for their own library. So that's what I think, guys. That's how I think they can succeed to really make it a library of excellence in their movies. Let me know what you think, if they can succeed if they were to follow that format. Just comment below and tell me what you think. Otherwise, do the usual. Subscribe over here and follow me on Instagram. You know the rest. Adios.